So let's talk about Hillsboro, Oregon. You've probably heard of it as the heart of the Silicon Forest, home to giants like Intel. But what's the real story behind all that tech? What's the city really like?
I mean, when you get past the corporate campuses and the big headlines, what's the actual vibe of the place? What is it really like to live there day in and day out? That's the big question we're going to try and unpack.
All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the city itself, beyond just the stats. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the price of living there. After that, we'll hear what the locals have to say. Then we'll check out the city's own plan for the future, its vision for 2035. And finally, we'll talk about the big balancing act that really defines Hillsboro. Sound good? Let's jump in.
Okay, first things first, you gotta understand the setting. Hillsboro is nestled in the Tualatin Valley, which is just beautiful. And this creates a really interesting mashup of a super high-tech industry sitting right next to these huge open farmlands. It's a city of contrasts from the very first glance.
So, with this kind of unique setup, tech meets nature, what's that actually going to cost you? Let's take a hard, objective look at the numbers. Well, right off the bat, the overall cost of living in Hillsboro is 15% higher than the national average. So yeah, it's definitely not one of the cheaper places to live in the country. But let's break that number down a little bit.
Okay, the big one here, the main driver, is housing. It's a whopping 29% above the national average. Groceries are a little bit more expensive too, but here's a surprise. Utilities are actually 11% cheaper than average. So what this really means is that your budget in Hillsboro is going to be shaped, more than anything, by what you pay for your home.
And to put a real dollar figure on that, the median home sale price is just shy of $470,000. But that's only one side of the coin when we're talking about money.
Because here's the other side, income. The median household income is over 82 grand a year, and that's because the local economy, powered by that Silicon Forest, is really strong. It provides the kind of jobs that help people afford those higher housing costs. So while it's expensive, the opportunity is definitely there.
Okay, so that's the data. But let's be real. Numbers on a page don't tell you the whole story. What does it actually feel like to be there? What are the people who call Hillsboro home saying about their city? You hear this a lot, a real appreciation for how close Hillsboro is to nature. This person on Reddit, Timbermoto, kind of sums it up perfectly. That access to farmland and a generally less hectic vibe is a huge plus for them, especially compared to its more crowded neighbors.
But, and this is a big but, that's not everyone's reality. This comment paints a totally different picture, talking about safety concerns and feeling like their neighborhood has gone downhill. It's a really powerful reminder that your experience can change dramatically just by going a few blocks in any direction.
And here's another really common theme you see popping up. This idea that Hillsboro has a real core, a sense of place. This user feels that, unlike its neighbor, Hillsboro has a proper downtown, a heart, that creates a genuine feeling of community. And for a lot of residents, that's a huge point of pride.
So if you dive into those passionate online debates and boil it all down, here's what you get. Team Hillsboro loves that it's quieter, has amazing parks, and, this one comes up a lot, way better Mexican food. Meanwhile, Team Beaverton points to its fantastic restaurant scene overall and the fact that it's a quicker trip into Portland. It's that classic suburban showdown, and trust me, people have strong opinions.
Which brings us to a really tough question. When you have residents with such completely different experiences, some loving the peace, others worried about crime, how on earth does a city's leadership create one single plan for the future that actually works for everybody?
Well, Hillsboro's answer to that question is something called the 2035 Community Plan. It's their official roadmap for where the city is headed. So let's see how they're planning to tackle all these challenges.
Now, this plan wasn't just cooked up by a few people in a back room. More than 5,000 residents actually pitched in with their ideas at festivals, forums. They even had suggestion boxes. This thing was really built from the ground up by the community.
And this is the vision that came out of all that. Just listen to the words they use. Blending urban lifestyle, a world-class economy, and its agricultural heritage. See? They're directly taking on those core contrasts that define the city. The goal isn't to pick one identity, it's to weave them all together.
And here's how that big vision starts to look like real action. You can literally draw a straight line from the feedback we just heard to the items on this list. People worried about traffic? Okay, let's expand the roads. They love the downtown? Great, let's put more energy into revitalizing it. It really shows a city that's listening. Now, actually doing all this, funding parks, finding land for affordable housing, that's a whole other massive challenge, of course.
And all of this really brings us to the main takeaway. Hillsboro's whole identity and its entire plan for the future is one giant, delicate balancing act. It's all about trying to hold these different and sometimes competing ideas together.
You can see that core challenge perfectly right here. On one side, you have the sleek, modern face of the tech world, and on the other, the natural beauty and agricultural roots that define the region. The big question is, can one city truly be both?
So at the end of the day, Hillsboro is a city of these powerful contrasts. It's super high-tech, but it's also right next door to nature. It costs a lot to live there, but it also has a thriving job market, and maybe, most importantly, it's home to a community of people who are really passionate and have a very clear vision for where they want to go.
Which leaves us with this one last thought. As Hillsboro keeps growing and pushing towards that 2035 vision, the ultimate question is this: can it actually pull it off? Can it successfully merge its high-tech, forward-looking future with that small-town community feel and natural charm that its residents so obviously love? The answer to that is going to write the next chapter for the Silicon Forest.